Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into the 7 habits of highly effective people today.
Oh, a classic.
It really is, and still so relevant even after all these years.
Absolutely.
Even Admiral Vern Clark was recommending it.
Really?
Yeah, like decades after it came out, he still called it a must-read.
It's amazing how these habits have stood the test of time.
That's right. It's not just about like quick tips or anything.
Right.
It's more about those deeper principles.
Yeah, like shaping your character and how you see the world.
Exactly. And that's where Covey starts,
Eh.
with this whole idea of paradigm.
Paradigms.
Yeah, like a mental model or a lens you see the world through.
Okay, I'm following.
He uses that optical illusion.
A young woman, old woman one.
That's the one. It shows how two people can look at the exact same thing.
And see totally different things.
Right, because their paradigms are different.
That's a really cool way to explain it.
And then there's that story about the man on the subway.
With the noisy kids.
Yeah, first you're annoyed. But then you find out they just came from the hospital where their mom died.
Talk about a paradigm shift.
It makes you realize how judging others without knowing the whole story.
Yeah, we all do it.
Definitely. And speaking of judging, Covey brings up this contrast
Between it.
the character ethic and the personality ethic.
Oh, interesting.
It really challenges the idea that success is all about those quick fixes.
Yeah, like surface level stuff.
Exactly. The character ethic is about building a foundation.
On things like integrity and fairness.
Yes. Those timeless values.
It's who you are deep down, not just how you appear,
He uses the example of 2 battleships in a fog,
to illustrate this.
right? One captain is decisive, guided by principles,
While the other hesitates.
and ends up making a disastrous mistake.
It's a high-stakes example,
It shows how important it is to act based on principles.
especially under pressure.
Okay, so we've got these paradigms
Right.
and the importance of principles,
Yeah.
but how do we actually become more effective?
Good question.
That's where Covey introduces this idea of a maturity continuum.
Like a journey or something.
Yeah, it's moving from dependence to independence.
And then to interdependence.
You got it. But it's not about being a lone wolf.
Right.
It's recognizing that true independence.
Is the foundation for healthy interdependence?
He uses the example of marriage,
Makes sense.
where both partners need to be secure in themselves.
To create a strong partnership.
So here's where the 7 habits come in.
Like a roadmap.
Exactly. There's sequential and build on each other,
Starting with those private victories.
which build our inner character
Then moving to the public victories.
of interdependence.
I like that framework.
Okay, let's jump into habit 1. Be proactive.
I love this one.
Covey uses Viktor Frankl's experiences.
In the concentration camps.
Yes. Despite those horrors, Frankl found.
The freedom to choose his response.
It's powerful, right? We always have a choice.
Even in the toughest situations.
Covey says our behavior is a function of our decisions.
Not our conditions.
We have agency. He talks about the circles of influence and concern.
What are those?
It's easy to worry about things we can't control.
I do that all the time.
Covey urges us to focus on what we can influence.
Our thoughts, actions, attitudes.
He tells a story about an executive who turns around a failing division.
By being proactive.
Exactly. He focuses on what he can control.
Even in a seemingly powerless situation.
That leads right into habit 2. Begin with the end in mind.
Okay.
It's about defining your mission and values.
Like a personal constitution.
Exactly. There's a powerful visualization exercise.
Tell me about it.
Imagine attending your own funeral
Oh, wow.
and hearing what people say about you.
That would make you think.
It forces you to confront your legacy.
What do you want to be remembered for?
That's the question. Then he talks about leadership versus management.
How does he differentiate those?
Leadership is defining what you want to achieve,
The first creation.
and management is figuring out how to get there.
The second creation.
It's all about starting with a clear vision.
That makes sense.
So it's not just about being efficient,
It's about being effective.
doing the right things, not just doing things right.
Got it.
Covey provides a framework for identifying your key roles in life
Like parent, spouse, professional.
and setting long-term goals for each.
But those goals should be aligned with your mission.
Of course. That's where habit 3 comes in. Put first things first.
This is the one about time management, right?
And prioritizing based on importance.
Not just urgency.
Covey introduces his famous quadrant 2 matrix.
I've heard about that.
It's so easy to get caught up in the urgent stuff.
And neglect the important things.
That's why he emphasizes scheduling time for those quadrant 2 activities.
Like planning and relationship building.
He even tells a story about delegating yard work to his son.
Using the principles of stewardship delegation.
And win-win agreements.
It's all about empowering others.
And freeing up your time for those high-impact tasks.
This is great stuff.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But I think we've covered a lot of ground. Let's take a break here and come back for those habits of interdependence.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle those habits of interdependence.
This is where things get really interesting.
It is. We've built that foundation of independence.
Right, with those first 3 habits.
Now we're talking about how we connect with others.
Collaborate, build relationships.
And that's where habit 4 comes in. Think win-win.
I love this one.
It's so much more than just compromise.
It's a whole different way of thinking.
Exactly. It's about approaching every interaction
with the goal of creating mutually beneficial outcomes.
Covey says most of us are conditioned for win-lose.
We see it everywhere.
In sports, in school, even in the legal system.
It's like there's only so much to go around.
And if you get a piece, I lose out.
It creates this adversarial dynamic.
But win-win is based on an abundance mentality.
The belief that there's enough success for everyone.
One person's achievement doesn't diminish another's.
It's about seeing opportunity instead of threat.
Collaboration over competition.
That's a powerful shift.
But win-win isn't just about positive thinking.
Right. It requires effort.
You need to be clear about expectations.
Define roles, agree on outcomes.
Covey talks about the 5 dimensions of win-win.
Oh, like what?
Character, relationships, agreements,
Okay.
systems, and processes too.
Systems. How does that fit in?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
If your organization rewards individual competition,
I see.
it's going to be tough to create a win-win culture.
The system has to support the philosophy.
Exactly. Covey says sometimes you can't reach a win-win agreement.
And then what?
That's where win-win or no deal comes in.
Meaning.
Sometimes it's better to walk away.
Than to settle for something that doesn't serve both parties.
He tells that story about the software company president.
Who walked away from a big contract.
Yeah, because he didn't sense a true commitment.
And later on?
That same person came back and signed an even bigger deal.
Wow. Sticking to his principles paid off.
Okay, moving on to habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
The power of listening.
It's so tempting to jump in with advice.
Or try to fix things right away.
Covey says we need to listen with the intent to understand.
Not just to reply.
He uses the analogy of a doctor diagnosing a patient.
You wouldn't want a doctor who just throws out random prescriptions.
Without understanding your symptoms first.
Exactly. That's diagnosing before we prescribe.
He walks through this conversation between a father and son.
Where the father keeps missing the mark.
Giving advice, interpreting, but not really listening.
It's only when he engages in empathic listening
that a real connection happens.
It's about seeing the world through the other person's eyes.
Covey provides specific techniques for this.
Like what?
Mirroring, rephrasing content, reflecting feelings.
It's more than just nodding your head.
It's about showing that you truly understand.
He even suggests asking for feedback on your listening skills.
From the people you care about.
It shows you're serious about improving.
All right, ready for habit 6. Synergize.
The magic of collaboration.
It's about creating something greater than the sum of its parts.
Covey defines synergy as achieving a third alternative.
Not my way, not your way, but a better way.
He gives some amazing examples of synergy in action.
Like that classroom that becomes a collaborative learning environment.
Or the insurance company that breaks free from its routine meetings.
And that diverse group on the Atomic Energy Commission.
They all created a safe space for open communication.
When people feel valued, incredible things can happen.
Covey tells a story about teaching a seminar.
Where the participants ended up co-creating a whole new structure.
It was far more impactful than anything he could have done alone.
It's about letting go of our egos.
Being open to new ideas.
Embracing that creative tension.
He reminds us that synergy can happen anywhere.
In our teams, our families, even with strangers.
It's about approaching every interaction with openness.
So we've covered 6 habits, each one full of insights.
It's a lot to take in.
I know, right? And that's where habit 7 comes in. Sharpen the saw.
Self-renewal.
Taking care of yourself.
So you can keep going.
Covey uses the analogy of a lumberjack.
Who keeps sawing without sharpening his saw.
It becomes dull and ineffective.
We need to invest in ourselves.
To maintain our energy and effectiveness.
He breaks it down into 4 dimensions.
Physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual.
It's all about finding balance.
It's amazing how much ground we've covered with these 7 habits.
I know, right?
So,
From paradigms to principles private victories to public victories.
And of course, sharpening the saw to keep going.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But for you listening in, what really stands out?
Yeah, what are those key takeaways you can actually use?
For me, it always comes back to that paradigm shift.
The optical illusion, right?
Yes.
Seeing things differently.
Exactly. Covey's saying we're not just passive observers.
We actually shape our own reality.
Through our perceptions and choices.
So it's like choosing a different pair of glasses.
To see the world in a new light.
And that's where proactivity comes in.
Right. We're not just reacting.
We're consciously choosing our response.
But to do that effectively,
You need a clear sense of purpose.
that inner compass.
Your mission statement.
Otherwise, it's easy to get swept away.
By other people's agendas or,
The tyranny of the urgent.
that's such a good phrase. We've all felt that.
Getting caught up in the day-to-day whirlwind.
And forgetting what truly matters.
That's where habit 3 comes in.
Put first things first.
Being intentional with your time and energy,
And aligning your actions with your values.
which is why that personal mission statement is so important
It's the foundation.
for a life that's true to yourself.
And it leads to stronger, more authentic relationships.
Right, like that emotional bank account idea.
I love that metaphor. It's all about trust,
Those everyday deposits of kindness and respect,
but also genuinely trying to understand.
even when someone's perspective is different from yours.
Habit 5. Seek first to understand.
It's so simple but powerful.
I know. I've been guilty of jumping in with advice too quickly.
We all have.
But that understanding is key for win-win solutions.
It's not about one person winning and the other losing.
There's often a third alternative.
A solution that benefits everyone.
That's the magic of synergy.
When people with different perspectives come together,
To create something truly extraordinary.
and it doesn't have to be some big event.
Synergy can happen anywhere,
In your team, at work, with your family.
even just interacting with strangers.
It's about being open and curious.
Okay, so we've got these 6 habits, each one packed with insights.
It's a journey, and it takes effort.
And that's why habit 7 is so important.
Sharpen the saw.
Taking care of yourself.
Renewing your energy and focus.
It's not selfish, it's essential.
Yeah.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
We've explored so much today,
From paradigms to synergy, it's been a whirlwind
but the 7 habits really offers a roadmap.
for a more fulfilling life.
And it starts with that full step.
Choosing to see things differently.
So as we wrap up,
Think about a relationship that feels strained
approach it with a genuine desire to understand
and a commitment to finding a win-win solution.
what new possibilities might open up. That's something to ponder.
The 7 habits is a journey worth taking.
One habit at a time.
We hope you'll join us on that journey.
Thanks for listening, everyone.